So the premium deck sets come out this summer for the English. Let's talk about some cards that are worth picking up. So once you get your deck set, you're ready to go. Let's get right into it. Check out Dueling Guard's deck boxes, playmats, and binders. They're great quality products that are anime based. They continually have more anime options becoming available. Use the affiliated link in the description for a 5% discount on your next purchase. Starting off with the grade 3, so definitely get some more copies of Cecilia Reverse. This is literally the deck's winning image. It's really taking advantage of Katrina turns while also rewriting Cecilia's. So that way you get double Vanguard attack turns, but also potentially a third Vanguard attack as well. The deck set unfortunately doesn't have a playset, so make sure you get the extra copies so you have a full playset to maximize on that strategy. In tandem with Cecilia Reverse, you want to get a card such as Usurp. Usurp is really that card essentially that revives itself during the battle phase to extend more attacks, but also serve as fodder for Cecilia Reverse to retire when it does its on-attack skill as well. I recommend anywhere to 2 to 3 copies. Also, another card that's coming out soon, but by the time the deck sets come out, is Bracing Angel Ladder. So this card gives you some type of resistance. So this is something that you can playtest with. Musketeers does have cards that you can utilize to have resist, but this is another option if you want to have it in terms of an order as well. This is impactful because you want to make sure you have a front unit and also standing rearguards, so you're able to pay the cost for Cecilia Reverse to even do its shenanigans of restanding or rewriting as a Vanguard as well. Onto the grade 2. So they actually have a good coverage on the grade 2, so I'm actually pretty impressed with that. You may want to consider the last copy of Tor if you want to go 4 copies. I know people have done 3 copies and they're good with that. Personally, I still play 4 just to be able to maximize on a card like that without thinking so much about how many copies I have left. It's also easier with G-Guards to be able to recycle 2 copies of normal units when you have a playset of cards, essentially. The other card that I recommend is getting Fafila, at least 2 copies, if not the 1 or 3. It just depends how aggressive you want to play at the ratios. But this is the Musketeer that gives us resist at the front row level. So essentially this will be getting resist and also your Cecilia Reverse when you call it through the Katrina skill. So that way you can guarantee that rewrite as a Vanguard play. The power up is nice too because it's an additional plus 6k that you can swing with the Cecilia Reverse, especially since it's going to be in the force marker. So it hits for more bigger thresholds over time as well. Onto the great ones already. So we're going to want to have a playset of Maiden of Sweetberry V-Series specifically. So this card is phenomenal on token generation. It's 8k base and 10k shield, which is, matters in this case too. Especially if you're trying to play the old Musketeer grade 1 support, you definitely value the shield value that you get. But it also provides as a beater, as a 13k booster, attacker, also soul charging aspect to it as well. So really it covers a lot of bases in that case as well. But overall, you want more token generators that are pretty easy to play. These can help you also during the battle phase to be able to extend more to the third Vanguard attack if you pop out another Cecilia Reverse due to your Vanguard Cecilia's check top 5 skill. Another card that you may want to consider is 1 copy of Ursula. So Ursula essentially gives resist to the front unit that's in front of it. If you don't have Pavila or you don't have that grade 3 order, you can use this behind the Cecilia Reverse essentially. So that way, if you're dealing like a Denial Griffin per se where it retires the attacking unit, that at least protects in those cases as well. Furthermore, if you keep that Ursula still in the back row, all the following Usurps that are coming about are also protected too. So if you want to keep hitting hard without the fear of like some Denial Griffin type of play where it gets rid of it, you could at least like just make sure those attacks are going through as well. There's also instances where the moving of the rows skill comes up. So sometimes you start calling grade 2s in your back row just to maneuver your main columns that you're trying to focus on and also just generate more tokens essentially and placements of that too. So that can come up later on in your next main phase to like maneuver your field if it needs to be used as is. One recommendation is definitely Susana. It's a very old Musketeer card. This essentially is the 5Ks. These are the 5K grade 1s from back in the day that you essentially Soul Blast 2 to countercharge to. It's exactly what you wanted it for. It's a countercharger, but it's aggressive countercharging because you can get 2 CB and it really just enables you to do another Cecilia Reverse turn because you need a counterblast typically to do its skill to rewrite, but also the skill to on attack and check top 5. And you could also be more aggressive with cards like Saud to be able to trigger crit triggers or any other triggers that you may see during your battle phase or even during your opponent's battle phase too if need to be. It just frees up a lot of the countercharging aspect as well. But also, if you're like rewriting the Cecilia Reverse, it's a great way to get a bunch of Musketeer normal units out of your soul into your drop zone, so then you can recycle them with other cards as well. The other great one Musketeer that you want is the PG Kiara. So literally, it's not only because it's a PG, but it's mainly when it's in the drop zone that it's really the main use that we play it. So essentially, you could bind this card to bottom deck any card from your drop zone. So this includes OTs, your other triggers, and any cards that you may need, like Cecilia Reverse, to further extend that turn. It's also one of the cards that actually allow us to recycle during our main phase, like our actual turn. Usually we recycle with our G-Guard, such as Robertina, for example, great G-Guard and everything, but it's really dependent on the opponent attacking us and it's on their turn. Where this is more in the main phase, you have a little more control, more freedom. Maybe you change it up a bit with a different target that you want to recycle as well. Definitely recommend at least one. I've been tempted to bump this up to 2 as well, just to see it more often and potentially go more crit base instead of just like 30k Sentinels versus like PG draws as well. The grade zeros are pretty solid with a premium deck set. There are a couple things that you can consider. So the first thing that I highly recommend is getting the Musketeer crits. I still play a playset of this card because when it's called by a Musketeer effect, you can countercharge too. That's big. This also makes the Saus go, especially in the early game, for free, and you get an inherent crit, essentially. This also can aggressively countercharge during your stride turns, so that way you can make sure that you can still like go with another extension of a Vanguard attack. Furthermore, with Sau doing skills, or even Tor, where it uses a counterblast, you can like keep deck thinning during your battle phase to keep pushing in that sense. So it's even more important to use these types of cards. This is what also like you don't need as much like Susana cards, for example, from the grade 1 lineup. A lot of this can be mitigated with the other countercharges, but also the crit as well, since it can countercharge too. So with the G zone, you definitely want to pick up 2 more Katrinas. Like this card at 3 copies is pretty much a sweet spot. You have just enough to make sure that you're good in games, and there's going to be games that you may go into the 3rd one. This is really the winning image still for Musketeers, even though we got the Virginal Cecilia as a great going first type of play, but going second, you're still going to fall back onto your Katrina turns, essentially. Not only that, it's a free stride, really, if you think about it. It just flips, generate a field, basically, once you're farther into the G zone, face up, and then on attack, call as many as you have tokens, like, for free as well. It's hard to, like, pass that up, essentially, besides having, like, a recycler stride or some type of, like, other type of stride. It's also worth noting that most of Neo Nectar's strides, I feel like, are more utility-based, too. And then you have like the rest of your deck to kind of like make your turn, essentially. So that's why even Katrina is more important as a card that can be pushing for those turns. To help push even harder, I recommend picking up 2 Cyclones, so that way you flip them with Katrina, because she flips generically, so then your tokens get into passive plus 5k for each Cyclone face up on the field too. So alongside with the power that Katrina gives to your tokens can easily be 20ks on your first strike turn, but also then 25k moving forward, and you start making like bigger columns that hurt really hard just in general. Speaking of Invierno, you definitely want to have 1 copy at least. This is a great card that's more of an on-demand recycling as needed too. It also countercharges and soul charges too. There is technically another stride that you can fall back into if you can't get a copy of Invierno. I know that it's lately kind of hard to find at this point, since with all the support being revealed too. But if you can get your hands on 1, I definitely recommend at least 1 at that point. And also they only include 1 Robertina in the deck set. I would recommend getting 1 more to have at least 2 in your G zone, so that way you can easily countercharge, but it's also a good shield. It gets plus 15k for recycling 2 normal units, and then you countercharge. Like, you literally get everything in all 1 skill. So I definitely recommend picking up the second one if you can. This is just some quick tidbits that I recommend like as you get your deck set this summer, so that way these are some cards that you can get ahead of time, so you're ready to play out, and also play test in the meantime as well. See what you like, see what ratios that you like as well. And there's more Musketeer support technically that I not covered in this video, so feel free to explore. I recommend cards from like the Limit Break era. I also recommend from the Generation Breaker era, such as Giera. You can really take the deck in a different direction too. There's also like more of a Virginal Cecilia build with maybe Martina to have like more crit focus type of build, essentially, with Force 2s or maybe just Force 1s with like Martina's abuse. There's so many ways that you can really take the deck in that sense. But I felt like these cards were definitely important for you to like take advantage of Cecilia Reverse, but also pretty much the whole Musketeer deck as a whole as well. Again, let me know in the comments what you think too. How's your playtesting coming out? I'm definitely excited for the deck set too, and I definitely welcome the new errata cards because this is a buff for the deck as well. I will be doing an updated deck profile in the next few days as well, so keep an eye out for that as well. On to the next one, amigos. Bye!